ProjectUX, the UX show for startups.
So RentHoop is basically Tinder for finding a roommate. We took a really outdated process, finding a roommate on Craigslist, newspaper ads, and we wanted to make it something more targeted towards millennials, people who are busy, who need to find a roommate, whether they're on the bus, in class not paying attention, that sort of thing. So we created something really simple, really focused. The first step is people log in through Facebook. And right now that is the only way that people can log in, and we do that to remove kind of the barriers that happen when you usually have to set up a profile. This is the onboarding screen that lets the user know how the app works. And so here's an example of what you're going to type in. It's going to say what city you're searching in, and then there's an about section to where you fill in as much or as little as you want. We also have a place where you can type in what neighborhood you want. Then you're going to be taken to the swiping screen, in which you can see all the people looking for a roommate right now. The red badges indicate you have a mutual friend or you have a mutual interest. You swipe left and swipe right, very similar to Tinder, and most millennials are pretty familiar with that. And then once you match, you guys connect, you'll be sent to a messaging screen, and that's kind of where you figure out the logistical part of it. So I will take us to the app, and so you'll be taken to a screen like this. Very minimalist. What we wanted to do was remove as many barriers as possible. This is my profile right now, looking in Green Lake and Capitol Hill, and then here this is the loading screen, and the pulsing shows that we're grabbing other cards from the deck. Here we go. So here is Tonk. He's 29. And this isn't the first time I've used the app, but that green check mark, we usually have a text box above that that says, this user has swiped right on you. So if I'd like to message him, I know that I can do that because he's interested in living with me. There we go. I can either start a conversation with him, or I can just keep searching, and then I'll see other people. So me and Taylor have a friend in common, my good buddy Robert. So I think that's a fundamentally different experience than you would get on Craigslist, to where it's really just strangers. And as you can see, we took information such as your first name, your age, and your picture, so you don't have to mess with any of that. You give us the details of what you're looking for, and then we give you the tools to see people searching.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in what user research you've done to create this application.
Yeah, so part of it came from me building the product that I wanted to use, and then the idea pivoted because I thought, hey, I wanted to build this, and then I had people being like, no, it's too complicated, build something else. And so when I came up kind of with the, oh, it's like Tinder for finding roommates, it's something that people understood right away. It was something that made sense.
It's a very interesting app. I'm curious where it closes the loop, meaning at some point you're going to have individuals that have found a roommate and no longer have a need for this app. What happens to those individuals in the system?
So what we do is we use a time period. If you haven't been on the app in this long, you're going to be removed from the deck. And we have something that says new. So if you haven't seen that person's sticker before, or you haven't seen that person's profile, that new is going to show up, so you know that they've been relatively active on the app.
Really evaluate that time period, right? Because it takes a bit of time to try and coordinate something with a particular roommate, and that roommate could eventually, kind of fall out of the process of looking for that roommate, or it just didn't work out in some of those scenarios. So it really just kind of take a look at the system while you're testing it, and maybe implementing these solutions and piloting it, really just evaluate as to whether or not that's the appropriate time period, because I think that's pretty critical. Also, those that are receiving those messages, they don't necessarily want or need to be receiving those messages from individuals during that time frame when they've chosen a roommate, at least in a soft fashion.
Because he's mimicking another app that's very well known, Tinder, should he still be doing user testing in this instance, or does that create kind of a pattern that then people understand what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, there may be some things that are generalizable from, you know, competitor apps or apps that are similar, but you still want to do user testing and user research, because the things that may be within one app may not be generalizable to the things that you're doing within your application, especially because it's in a different domain. So similar concepts or similar ideas, but they're not the same thing.
So one of the things that we got feedback on is Tinder, if you just, like, you have no indication if somebody swiped right on you or not. And so we just thought, hey, people will figure it out once they swipe right if they actually do want to live with that person. And I watched people use the app, and they're like, well, how do I know if this person swiped right on me? Or we'd send them a notification saying somebody swiped right on you, but you don't know who, and people got really frustrated by that. So what we did was we added that green check mark so you know exactly who it is that you matched with and has already swiped right on you.
One of the things that, as we're talking about the Tinder interaction, you're borrowing a card and an interaction model from an app that serves a largely different purpose. And as you're thinking about the UI and what you're borrowing from Tinder, then think about the parts of the interaction that are definitely not Tinder, and be really explicit in your UI about this is what I'm borrowing and this is what I'm not borrowing, so that you can use the popularity that Tinder has gained as an interaction model without being pinioned by it as you get to more complex scenarios.
And there are many different ways of implementing this, right, type of interaction and engagement with different types of potential roommates, right? You could do it as a list view. You could do it as a map view in terms of what your going in expectation is for what you're looking for.
What Tinder does really well is it allows you to pretty much focus on one person at a time and really determine, is that person a fit, yes or no, right then and there.
Are you able to filter before you get to this page? Like let's say I'm looking for a roommate who can afford $1,500, who's like a male. Can I do that before I get to that part of the interface, before I swipe right or left?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're planning on implementing more filters because that's something a bunch of people have asked for. What we did when we launched the app in May was we're like, let's make it as minimalist as possible and remove as many barriers to entry as possible.
I just wanted to say that I think the way that you bring in profiles and say, oh, this is a friend of so-and-so is great. When I first saw that, and as we've been talking about it, I mean that for even broaching a conversation about someone that you want to share a living space with, to have that kind of connection seems like a real value add for this particular kind of service. So nice job there.
Totally, thank you.
The other thing is, so can you show a little bit more of your design here, like some of the screens that you've displayed? So and that image, that's an image that you have chosen to upload as a representation of yourself?
No, good question. So right now we just take your profile picture from Facebook. As I said, very minimalist, very removing as many barriers as possible.
Yeah, I guess it's a tricky decision, right? Because I know plenty of people on Facebook that choose certain types of imagery on there as a representation of themselves that maybe, isn't appropriate for LinkedIn, isn't appropriate for the presence that you want to show when you're trying to get a roommate.
Yeah, and I do wonder, like, how important is the image in a roommate app? Like, it is like so big on the screen. Like, do you downplay that and give more information about like what if the person's like employed, and other like maybe like educational information that is a better indicator if this is going to be a better roommate for me than the picture?
How is the card stack ranked? Because there's a way, just in the order that you present the information, that you can, while still, because the visual is very nice, right? It's a visual interaction, but the order in which you stack them can help offset that a little bit. So how is the stack ordered?
If somebody swipes right on you, and so you have that green check mark on there, that appears first because we obviously want to put potential matches in front of you. One of the second things is also if they're new, if you have not seen their profile, it'll come up higher than people you've already seen who you've swiped left on. And then as far as the rest of the algorithm goes, it's by the last active date.
So the description here, the picture you're pulling from Facebook, and then the description, I have 2 furnished rooms available in Columbia City, 700. They have to type all that in?
Yep.
So there's a chance since you're already demanding some manual input on a phone, to simplify that and create structured data that you can then feed back into your algorithm. So instead of having them type in $700, that's then difficult for you to read on the development side, give them a range slider. In the Columbia City, Seattle, maybe you have sort of like neighborhood maps that they can just tap on all the places I want to live, and then that can feed into your algorithm in addition to the friends, which I still think is great, and surfacing new people, which fits in there somewhere. But then that lets you, instead of having a lot of no, 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 you get them to more yeses more quickly.
And I'll say when you're considering things like filtering, that has to be that. So I see you buried it in your hamburger menu. It's going to be one of those things that you're going to want to have some visibility, at least when you're swiping, as to what the filter is, with easier mechanism for changing those. Because I can see a lot of scenarios where, it's not necessarily what I'm looking for, but I want to quickly understand and make sure that there are filters that are triggered. And if there's some kind of visual representation, like on this screen, that shows that there are filters active, that I'm only searching for people that are either looking for roommates or have a home or is in this particular radius, that's being represented somewhere so that there's an easier trigger for me to know that that's actually what is the result that I'm seeing.
Let's have a round of applause for RentHoop. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'd love to know what you think in the comments below, so like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It means the world to us, and we'll be back soon with more UX content for you coming your way. Until next time.